this is what blew my mind away seeing this. Right? Watch this. GPT-4 is capable of handling over 25,000 words of text. And again, 25,000 words of text. When we start talking about 25,000 words of text, now we're talking about books, entire books. Greetings, everyone. Fro here. Welcome to Demo Hub. Welcome to an impromptu show. Today is a big day for AI. Today is a big day for machine learning. Today is a big day for large language models. Today we're going to talk about GPT-4, very anticipated, and it's here for real, pun intended. Now, on the screen, we have the OpenAI website, which is live. And as of a few hours ago, OpenAI just announced that the GPT-4 language model has been released. There was a lot of fanfare around it. I personally wasn't sure it's going to come up this quick. So it's definitely a very exciting thing that the model has been out here. We're going to go in to take a look, give some commentaries. There isn't a demo that's available just yet, but we're going to talk about what is different about this language model and how you can start thinking about incorporating this into the use cases. That said, if you go over to the OpenAI website, not a lot has changed except for the announcement. So here we're going to see introducing GPT-4, OpenAI's most advanced system. So it started with GPT-1, GPT-2, GPT-3, which was trained on about 175 billion parameters. Now we have GPT-4. In between GPT-3 and GPT-4, that's where we have the ChatGPT. ChatGPT is what really brought OpenAI to the masses. Folks like myself who were paying attention to GPT-1, GPT-2, but to be honest, people really didn't take it seriously until ChatGPT came. People started taking it seriously. So GPT-4 is the next iteration, which is going to make ChatGPT looks like child's play. Here on the screen, you see some videos introducing that. Obviously, you can try ChatGPT. But what we really want to pay attention to when you go to check this out is you want to go to products, click on products, and then click on GPT-4. This is where they have a deeper overview of the GPT-4 language model. We're going to read through what OpenAI is saying and see some things that are very interesting about this particular release. The very first one here is OpenAI's most advanced. They keep talking about being the most advanced, safer, because one of the comments that did come up when ChatGPT was released was, how safe is it? People were using it for financial advice. People were using it for healthcare advice. People were using it for all kinds of things, which wasn't really what it was meant for. And so having safety into it, I think is definitely something that the community would appreciate, and more useful responses. You know, one of the big things that if you've worked with any of these language models, sooner or later, you're going to run into hallucination, which is just the model spitting out gibberish, things that don't make sense. And you have to catch it every now and then because these models are not real time. They've been trained on existing data and data changes. We all know that. Something to be aware of, that the model now is presumably more safer and useful. If you want to try GPT-4, it's still on ChatGPT. So this is ChatGPT, but you're going to need the ChatGPT Plus. I haven't upgraded yet. I'm planning to do an upgrade, but for those who have already upgraded to $20 a month, I'm guessing that your experience would be the GPT-4 as opposed to GPT 3.5 or whatever version that this is running on. This version is still before that. The version here is of February 13. Well, we're not making this video on February 13. So I'm guessing that there is a newer version, which if you have upgraded, you would use that version. This is interesting. There is also an API waitlist. So for those that want to have programmatic interface with this, because not everybody is going to come in and write into this chat experience. It's beautiful, but if you want to build an app that's going to interact with ChatGPT, you're going to need an API. The fact that they have released this with an API, I think is pretty cool. You can put in your name. There's still a wait list for this. First name, last name, email, of course, organization ID. And this will probably be the organization ID that you get from your settings page when you log in into OpenAI. It was very interesting that they immediately are releasing this wait list right with the announcement. Now let's go down in here to see, there are some interesting things that they talked about here and it's interesting to take a look at. Number one, it says GPT-4 can solve difficult problems with greater accuracy. Again, let's pay attention to these words. Accuracy, we saw advanced, we saw safer, we saw useful, right? Useful, accurate, advanced, safe. So this is the language they're using to describe this new model that they've released, and thanks to its broader general knowledge. So they're calling out general knowledge here because these are large language models. The more general knowledge they have, the more contextual they can produce results. And problem solving, this is an interesting one. This is something that ChatGPT really wasn't built for problem solving, right? Life is about problem solving. The way I put it, we're always solving problems in terms of how to schedule meetings or how to plan a party. How many drinks should you get based on the guests you're going to be inviting? Those are little math problems here and there that if the language models could help with solving that beyond just speeding grammar and text, that will be interesting to us as well. And so we're seeing that here happening. In here, it talks about creativity. GPT-4 is more creative and collaborative than ever before. That's it can generate, edit, iterate on creative and technical writing, because people are using this not just for technical writing blog posts, but composing songs, composing literature, poems, and all of that. So the more creative it can be, wow, that's pretty fascinating. And so here you can see an example, explain the plot of Cinderella and blah, blah, blah. And it goes ahead and it's giving you some interesting plot there. What caught my attention is this, right? So when we think about what GPT was really about, generalized, pre-trained, and that's the GPT models, and we think about it as a large language model, we think of language, but it wasn't really, we weren't thinking of images, and images was left for the DALL-E, it was left for the Stable Diffusion and some of the different platforms to really focus on that. But bringing this together now, where you have the images and the text, you can go back and forth between those two within ChatGPT is interesting. This is a cool example that you can give it images and it does classification, captioning is something that has been done for a while now, but being able to do that within ChatGPT is pretty cool. This is a cool example. You give it a picture, an image, and it's going to suggest to you ingredients or what you can make, the recipes that you can make out of this. Here we have flour, eggs, milk, and butter. Sugar is suggesting you can make omelette, toast, cakes, pancakes, crepes in France. Very interesting. Take an image, give it to this, and it starts suggesting to you recipes. I could see somebody building an app on this, right? I'm sure some entrepreneur out there is really jumping on this and thinking of use cases where they can start building apps on this really quickly. Now let's go back here for longer text. This is what blew my mind away seeing this. Right? Watch this. GPT-4 is capable of handling over 25,000 words of text. And again, 25,000 words of text. The average blog post out there would be between 500 and 1,000 words. If you're pushing to long form blogs, you're looking at 2,000, 3,000 words. If you really are pushing it, you're looking at 5,000 words. When we start talking about 25,000 words of text, now we're talking about books, entire books. What this is telling us is that you can prompt and it writes an entire book for you. We're not talking about you doing research and copying and pasting the text to come up with a book. It can just write 25,000 words of text to you in a book. If that's what this means. This is mind blowing at this point. It's just really hard to conceptualize what's going on and the speed with which we're seeing these advances coming. Imagine a situation where you give it all your Twitter accounts, you give it access to all the different social media platforms you have, you give it access to your calendar, you give it access to all of these pieces of your life, and then you just tell it, write my biography. It comes up with a 25,000 word piece of your biography based on your calendar, where you were at this time, what pictures you took, because it can now look at your pictures. It can join that with the people you were meeting with. It can join that with your location data, where you were. It can infer from the text you've written, the tweets you've put out. It looks at the sentiment, and then all of a sudden it can write your biography. Now, I'm not one of those people who would jump to talking about something being sentient, but I think we're kind of pushing it. We're kind of pushing the edges. Where this is going to go, I am just excited for the ride. I am very excited for the ride. Let's jump in here. So longer text, visual input, as well as more creativity. Next piece here, GPT-4 surpasses ChatGPT in its advanced reasoning capability. This is an interesting one, right? Look at this example here. And this is something you do in basic math or tests that requires cognition. You say, Andrew has a free time from 1 to 3. Joanne has a free time from noon to 2. And Hannah has a time from noon for half an hour. You kind of put in your requirements in words, making it a little complex. Essentially what is being asked is for the GPT-4 to understand this and to tell what time is free for all 3 individuals based on the text input. It's going to do it for you like it does it. Again, the use cases for this abound. There are so many calendar apps. Scheduling time is just sometimes a nightmare. You have to look at when somebody's available, when this other person's available, and you're kind of balancing that. It's improved a lot, but being able to do that by just reading text, it's really amazing to see how far and how fast we're coming. It also talks about GPT-4 outperforms ChatGPT by scoring higher approximate percentiles among uniform bar. I'm not sure exactly what the uniform bar exam is. If somebody knows that, just put that in the comments. 90th percentile biology, Olympiad, 99th percentile with vision. That's amazing to me. I'm just not sure exactly what those tests are, but I would say that it looks interesting. And then here is also the work that the team seems to be doing to make this safer. So it talks about they spent 6 months making 4 safer and more aligned. GPT-4 is 82% less likely to respond to requests of disallowed content, as well as 40% more likely to produce factual responses than GPT-3 on their internal evaluations, right? So the whole idea is there are things that it doesn't want you to get, very sensitive topics, inappropriate topics, being able to suppress that and not surface those results seems to be what they've done here. And if you go into the details, it talked about incorporating a lot of human feedback into this, as well as not just the experts. All our 50 experts were involved in the early feedback. And these are domains like AI, safety, as well as security. And these are the 2 big pieces that were involved in the feedback to really train and fine tune this model for more safety. It also talks about continuous improvement. So what they've done too is, if you think about how folks have been using the ChatGPT for a while now, it's been a couple of months now, all the prompts that folks have been asking, you can imagine that all those queries are getting saved and they can see what people tend to be asking. And you can learn from that and make it more safer. I'm guessing that that's what they've done because they keep a log of all the queries that people are asking and the responses they're getting. I'm guessing it's a self-learning system that is what's making it more advanced. Pretty cool. Now they jump into some use cases here, and this is very interesting to see. But what always interests me with things like this is not the use cases that GPT or OpenAI thinks would be relevant for a language model like this. What is always interesting with technology and solutions like this is what people don't even think, because sometimes you release things as wow, you have this concept in mind that, oh, people are going to do this, build websites and make all these things. And then all of a sudden it solves problems that we couldn't even imagine. And what this reminds me of is the internet. I'm guessing people who were creating the internet thought, well, this would be a way for researchers and university students to communicate and share papers. That was in the 90s. But guess what? Is that what we use the internet today? Sure, maybe for a little piece of it, but the majority of it, commerce and communication and healthcare, have all been transformed by it. That's really the kind of mindset that I personally come or approach with things like this. So we're going to see some of the use cases here that are called out, but be rest assured that these are just the ones they can pick. What are the use cases that they are not even thinking of that you could be thinking of in your own situations? Duolingo for learning a second language, which is a natural use case. Helping with vision or accessibility, because you have the image recognition they have. You can take a picture of some object and it tells you what the object is. You can take an image of, say, a nutrition information or on some food, and it tells you if that food, based on your medical condition, is good for you or bad for you, right? So there are many use cases all around this. And this is something that niche players have been doing for a while now. I don't think this is made new, but again, just having all of this within one engine is where it really begins to blow your mind away. Stripe is using this. And the beauty about this is if you're going to check out the website, is they go into the details of it. the use case where Stripe, I think they did a hackathon or some innovation within the organization where they had 100 employees just, stop a day of work and just focus on it. And it is cool. I recommend you go read through those. Let's go back here. Stripe is doing that. Morgan Stanley from a financial services perspective. So this is language, e-commerce. This is accessibility. Now we're talking about financial services. Khan Academy is a big one. They're using this and integrating that for students and tutoring. I'm going to leave a link to the Khan Academy website somewhere because I literally saw that just right before jumping on this, where they now have ChatGPT or the GPT-4 incorporated to solving math problems. So you can put X plus Y minus Z and you're doing some advanced math, right? What would be advanced algebra or things like that? And it can solve that for you and give you the steps. Now, I haven't seen the specifics of it, but just sounds pretty cool. And this is something that from an educational perspective, which is kind of near and dear to my heart, I feel that it has a lot of promise. And Khan Academy has already jumped on it. I could imagine that you can see the examples here, that there are more use cases like this for education, that this will become extremely relevant, not just for math, chemistry, physics, biology. There are a lot of things that students just struggle with explanation, and with the right explanation, the right tone, you can get the point across. But guess what? Not every teacher has the right tone or the patience to get that message across. But if a machine that you can just keep probing, that is patient and can dial it up and down, can explain something to you, maybe there is just some tremendous amount of opportunities here. And then government, of course, is leveraging this, and then some other companies here. Definitely very fascinating. I would recommend for the folks that, and maybe this will be a separate video, that wants to go into the research that goes behind this. And I would probably recommend a separate video on this because it's important for us to also not just look at the use cases, but look at the specific research that goes into this, that they call out the capabilities, their benchmarks, the tests they've done, GPT 3.5 and GPT-4. It goes into some really good details in here. We're going to unpack this maybe in a follow-up. Links to all of this will be in the description below. Now, they're excited to see how people get to use it. I am excited to see how people get to use this, because it's one thing for nerds, commentators, hosts like me to talk about it. There's another thing for folks to actually put this into practice, to solve everyday problems. At the end of the day, AI is not useful if it's not solving problems. If we're just having conversations like this about AI, that's interesting. But if you can solve problems with it, that's where it really begins to shine. Before we wrap up here, one of the things that folks are also thinking about is, from a consumer perspective, from a B2C perspective, there is definitely value, but then there is also a tremendous amount of knowledge that is not exposed to the search engines and the eyes of GPT-4, talking about specific industries, specific languages like healthcare, and how doctors can encode certain medical procedures, the terms they use, the language, the ontology they use in those domain specific areas is pretty unique. The moment where this power starts getting into those types of industries, there's going to have to be some governance around that, because companies are not just going to give you their proprietary secret and the data sets they have for you to fine tune this. But the moment this starts having a way to go into the corporate world, we're going to see a whole new side of this coming into light. Right now, for everyday folks like you and me, writing literature, blog posts, things that we put out to the wild, to the public, yes. But as corporations, and Microsoft is already talking about this, and they have great partnership here, integrating that into their Office products. Google is not asleep, right? They're going to come up with something here pretty soon with Bard, that as all of this is getting integrated and getting into the corporate side of the world, that the use cases there would also begin to blow for businesses. Very fascinating. Hopefully this is exciting to you as it does to us here making this video. If you have any questions, let us know in the comment section below. We'll see what we can do. This has been Fru, your host with DemoHub. I'll see you in the next demo. Thank you.